Hey guys, my name's Juan and today we will be talking about the OINP PhD Graduate stream. If you don't already know, the OINP stands for Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program. And this stream is still available right now during the COVID-19 pandemic. As always, if you have any questions, please ask them down below in the comment section or feel free to ask me directly through a direct message. Do keep in mind, I'm not a professional. However, if you would like, I can connect you with a certified immigration consultant, one that would offer a free 30-minute consultation. And with that, let's get to the video. The PhD Graduate stream is for graduates with an Ontario PhD degree who want to live and work in Ontario. Also, you do not need a job offer to apply. There are mandatory requirements which we will go over one by one, but I will also just give you a quick overview. And those requirements are education, which is somewhat an obvious one. Residency in Ontario, which means that you have lived in Ontario in the past. Settlement funds. This means that you'll be able to show that you have enough money either in your bank account or through ongoing earnings to support yourself and your family when you settle. Intention to live in Ontario, which means that you must be able to demonstrate an actual intention to live in Ontario after you receive your permanent residence. You must have a legal status in Canada. That's just like a visitor visa or a study permit or work permit. And application period. This is the time frame that you would have to apply after receiving your PhD. I'll have the video broken up into chapters. You'll be able to see those right along the bottom here, so you can click back and forth between the different chapters in case you forget anything. So the first requirement is education. Some of this may be obvious, but you must have fulfilled the requirements to get a PhD before applying. And this PhD must have been obtained from an eligible university in Ontario. And there's a lot of these. I'm gonna put up two lists on the screen, and just make sure to get a good look at them and double check that your university is on the list. They won't be up for too long, so make sure to pause if you need to. On top of this, you must have been legally living and studying in Ontario for at least 2 years of those PhD studies. Also, you do not qualify if you have some sort of grant or scholarship that requires you to return to your home country after receiving your PhD. But if this is the case for you, you can still apply after you have fulfilled those requirements in your home country, and you can still show an intent to live in Ontario. The next requirement is residency in Ontario. To fulfill this requirement, you must have lived legally in Ontario for at least 1 year in the last 2 years before applying. It is important to note that this 1 year can be cumulative, so that means that there can be gaps in the time it takes you to achieve those 12 months. They just have to happen in that 2-year period before you apply. The next requirement is settlement funds. You must be able to demonstrate that you have enough money to support yourself and your dependent family should they join you when you settle in Canada. A family member would include a spouse, common law partner, or a dependent child. That means that they are a child under the age of 22, and their own children would also count under this category. This includes any children that your children might have. So there are 3 ways that you can fulfill this requirement. And to meet the requirement, you can combine multiple ones of these or do it all in a single requirement. And that will make a little more sense once I show those. And they are: 1, funds can be shown from bank statements or statement of accounts showing other investments so long as they are not locked in. 2, you must be able to show annual earnings from current employment in Ontario. Or 3, a job offer in Ontario. So to give an example, let's say that you would require $20,000 of settlement funds to fulfill this requirement. If you are currently employed in Ontario and are earning $15,000 a year, and you also have a savings of $5,000 available in your bank account, you could combine these amounts for a total of $20,000 to satisfy the settlement fund required. Do keep in mind that you do not require a job offer or current employment. You can fulfill this requirement with any one of those three. So you could just have all that money as savings, that would be fine. You could have only a job that already pays you enough to fulfill that requirement, or if you have neither of those, you could still have a job offer where in the contract it would state how much money you would be making annually. And if it's an hourly wage, you can still calculate what you would be making annually and report that number for this requirement. I'll have a link down below with more information on these settlement funds, including how much money you would need depending on your family size. But I'll give a brief summary of what you would need if your family was a size of 1, 2, or 3 members. If your bank statement shows a single lump sum of money being deposited into it to fulfill that requirement of having the money in terms of savings, you will need to provide additional information demonstrating that this money is free of debt or any liability. The next requirement is intention to live in Ontario. This one is kind of like the name says. You must be able to demonstrate to the OINP that you have an intention to live in Ontario after you receive your permanent residence. The OINP will check this for themselves by looking into the following things: work, job offers or job applications and interviews, if you've studied here, volunteering, leasing or owning property, visiting. They'll check your professional and personal relationships, all of which would be in Ontario. So in case it wasn't clear, that's like work in Ontario, or study experience in Ontario, or volunteer experience in Ontario. And all those things would count to them verifying that you do have an intent to live in Ontario after you receive that permanent residence. The fifth requirement is that you must have a legal status in Canada. This requirement only applies to you if you are applying from within Canada. So if you're applying from outside of Canada, feel free to just skip ahead to the next chapter on the timeline. If you are applying from within Canada, you must have a legal status and maintain it until you receive your nomination. Legal status could be anything from a visitor record to study permit or work permit. You may still fulfill this requirement if you are in what's called implied status. This would mean that you have submitted an application to the IRCC to extend or renew your legal status. In this case, you would be allowed to remain in Canada working or studying until a decision has been made on your renewal or extension application to the IRCC. The final requirement is the application period. You must submit your application within 2 years of the date shown on your PhD degree. So if your degree is dated June 1st, 2020, you must apply before June 1st, 2022. If you do not have your official degree yet, you can use the date on the official letter from your university stating when your degree will be granted. It is important to note that you must have actually completed your PhD before applying. Those are all of the requirements. Next, we will be talking about supporting documents that you would need for your application. These must be provided along with your application to prove that you meet your requirements. And it is really important that these are all submitted properly. They will all need to be uploaded to your online OINP application. And if they are not all there, your application will be returned to you as incomplete and your money will be refunded to you. However, there is a slight chance if somehow the processing has already begun on your application and then they find out that not all of the documents are there. In that case, there would be no refund. So definitely make sure that you have all of your documents in order. I'll have a link down below in the description with a sort of checklist for the OINP PhD Graduate stream supporting documents. So definitely check that out. All of these documents must be uploaded and scanned in either English or French. If a supporting document is not in either English or French, what you can do is get your document translated to English or French, and then when you upload it, you upload both a copy of the original and a copy of the translated document. How these get translated and to what standard is somewhat specific, so I'm gonna have a link down below with more information on translated documents. Next, we're gonna talk a little bit about the cost to apply. The application fee is 1,500 Canadian dollars, and this covers the cost of processing your application. Payment is only accepted through Visa, Visa Debit, MasterCard, or MasterCard Debit. And refunds will only be given if your application is incomplete and returned to you, or if you withdraw before processing has begun on your application. As soon as processing has begun, there will be no refund. It is worth noting that unsuccessful applications will also not be refunded. Next, we will talk a little bit about representation. When you are applying for any type of immigration to Canada, you may use what is called representation. This can be either a certified immigration consultant or an immigration lawyer. Now, in the case of this stream, the application process changes a little bit, so I'll have a link down below with more information on using representation. However, even with these slight differences in the application process, if you use representation, they are likely to walk you through the whole process anyways. And the last part of this video is the best part, nomination. If your application is successful and you are nominated, you will receive a nomination approval letter and a nomination certificate by email. Once the OINP has notified you of that nomination, the next step would be to apply to the IRCC for permanent residence using those two documents you just received. And that's it, guys. I hope this information is helpful to you. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them down below in the comment section or send me a personal message. Do keep in mind, I'm not a professional. However, I can connect you with a certified immigration consultant, one that would offer a free 30-minute consultation. If you like the content or you find it useful, please consider liking, subscribing, and hit that notification bell to get all of the updates. And with that, I hope you guys have a great day and a great life. Take care.